So what are the pressing issues, and what are some of the goals and priorities that you think we should be addressing over the next year or two?
I think the goals should be, I noticed that I've been coming to a lot of these activities that you guys put on, and I think we should be looking at, one of the goals should be how we can make it bigger, how we can recruit more people, get more involvement. We say community farms, but like Tiba City, there's something like what, 12, 15,000 people, but we have little events, and we're trying to, if we can get half the town to come and be a part of it, you know, that would be really good. So trying to expand our mission and what we're after and what we're trying to do, and trying to teach everybody and trying to go green. So that, I think I would say that would be one.
Excellent. Who else? Who else has a pressing issue question?
Well, I work with Johns Hopkins with the community garden down at the Curly Valley, and it's a part of my aunt's field that we're using as a community garden. And we had several, I'd say 20 families that came out and planted. We did this one thing where it's called Adopt a Row, and they came and adopted 1 row or 2 rows or 3 rows, depending on what they could handle. And just the whole purpose of it was just to get more people out there farming, especially in that valley. But I think as I talk to more people, one of the biggest things is the whole irrigation system. It was constructed in the 60s, and it just did its purpose for back then. But now it seems like there's a lot of water being wasted during the irrigation season. And I think just getting engineers out there to look at that whole system and trying to redo it, trying to find a better way where everybody has an equal access to water during that irrigation season. So, I mean, even to our field where we were irrigating, part of the way is concrete, and then the other part is it's just dirt. It's just dirt ditches. So I think a lot of water just kind of soaks into the ground, and you just lose water that way. And it's just so precious to us. And just to get that whole valley going, if there's no water, how can people farm if there's no water for them?
Who else has a pressing issue?
Just like these two said, there's I don't see any people from the local chapters here, like Dalkai, Tisto, and it's mainly from Tuba City. And like I said, I didn't know anything about this too, and maybe we need to do a lot of recruitment, and that's one thing. And then the other is we have during summers, yes, we come across drought every year. That's been happening, and people, we scrounge around for water. So that's another issue. And then I think those are the two main issues that we have, the drought, and then we don't have a lot of community that participates in these things.
My concern where I farm is I have a lot of water that I have there at my farm, but we have a lot of weeds that grow, notorious weeds like Russian olive and tamaracks, I think that's what they're called, and tumbleweeds, and then the bullheads. They're just everywhere. Now that the rain came, it's just everywhere. So weeds, how do we control these weeds? Especially in the ponds, we have about 3 ponds, and there's reeds that come out of there, those cattail reed. Also, the trees, the Russian olive trees, they need a lot of moisture, and we have the moisture there. We get so that's my concern. Okay.
I think for us is like knowing what type of soil conditions, and also like we've learned since we're new farmers that nitrogen's one of the main key elements for growing a lot of the plants we're growing. So we're just kind of like to have a little more information on what can help us in our area down in the Curly Valley that could supplement our corns. And then also like I think it's more or less winter preparations, what we need to do during the winters to get ready for our summer growth. And that's some of our issues that we have with our farms. And I think she's probably Trudy's probably touched based on the irrigation part of it also, having an older canal system, flood irrigation, versus having a readily available water. So it's having to utilize what water we have at the beginning of season when there's water available. Then after that water is ran out, and there's no water available, then we've got to go back to the dry farming and basically rely on what we've irrigated from earlier in the year there. So
These are all excellent questions and issues, and I think enough to probably fill up the next 30 minutes, unless anyone else. Then let's take the first one. And actually, a couple of you mentioned concern about recruiting more members, expanding the breadth of this program to reach more folks. The fact that we don't have more local people here from Dilkan and from Tisto. So who has some ideas about how we might be able to expand our presence and get more folks involved? Jonathan?
I think a lot of us. Well, my second question here says, "What's good?" I guess, right? And the good thing is that we as a small group, as who's here right now, that's the good part, that we are doing something about it. So I think the thing is that if we have to do a lot of volunteer work beyond just working the farms, as far as for all of us individually to get out there and pass the buck, so to speak, or broaden the campaign, or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? So if I can get out there and share with 50, 100 people, we all do that here. That's where we're clearing to at least 1,000 people. And I know a lot of people. So if I take it upon myself that I'm able to do something like that as an individual, and then times that by however many people here, and I think that's one of the good start right there. We don't necessarily have to spend money to do ads and all that kind of stuff. We can just provide volunteer work our own self. I know a lot of people don't like to do that. Most people don't want to be compensated. But if we want to grow, and if that's one of the concerns, then we got to do what we got to do. So.
Yes, word of mouth and volunteerism is probably one of the most effective ways that we can get more folks involved. Now, you have 20 people in your community garden, 20 families. So maybe 40 or 60 individuals that are participating. Have they continued to come out since they planted and worked their fields? And how have you managed to get that continuing participation?
Well, at the beginning, there was a lot of interest. People are they were enthusiastic about it. They were motivated. And we did this during Mother's Day, so we kind of put Adopt a Row, Plant with Mom Day, that kind of thing. And people were really into it, and just I guess it's just life. People got busy. They didn't want to come down and maintain their 1 or 2 rows, and certain parts got overrun with weeds, and they didn't grow very well, and it was just hard to keep that motivation going. But there is a lot of interest, and I think people they need support from others, like farmers to farmer, and then just teaching them different things, like, a lot of people don't know how far down you put the seeds, or, how does it look when it comes out? How is it different from the weeds? And, those kinds of things. It's just really basic things, and people get overwhelmed with it, and they give up. So I think just being supportive of them as you recruit them, I think that was one of our lessons learned from that.
One of our most successful community gardens is actually right here in Tisto. Virgil Nez is the community garden organizer. Jonathan, maybe you could speak a few words about why do you think Tisto has been such a success? I understand that there are a number of families that are participating in that community garden.
Tisto, we had volunteer work, and I think Virgil was just too good. Yeah, he was out there good with they had center helping out the elderlies and some volunteer work, and he's been. Yeah. And Talani Lake, we have a lot of volunteer work. Talani Lake and North Loop Farms. I work with North Loop Farms, and they're doing pretty good too. So it's all people getting together, and their involvement makes a good feel.
How many families and acres in North Loop?
So far, we have 32 families. 32 families. They have each 1 acre.
Anyone else have comments about increasing participation? I think we've had some good suggestions here with the events, small groups, volunteerism.
This year we were not planning on doing any farm work since we had been doing it for many years. But we decided to go ahead because my grandson decided to, he's about 20 years old, he decided to learn how to plant and how to take care of a farm. So we let him go ahead, and I taught him how to plant. There's spots here and there. There's about 4 of them that came. They're grandkids, and they never did any of this work before. They lived in Flagstaff all their life, and so they came out and they did pretty good. Some places they didn't grow, so I had to replant in those areas for them. But I'm leaving everything up to them to take care of the farm and make sure that they get a good, crop this year. And so the only thing is that they work different hours, the weekends, they get days off on different days. So it's kind of hard. And my mother is 89 years old now, and I had surgery this summer, so I can't work. And that's what I told them. I said, we can't plant this year, but they wanted to. So it's good to teach the younger ones and to get involved. And so they are, the younger people. They've seen me do it all these years, and so they're wanting to learn too themselves.